Hello again, Wildcats. Welcome to another season of Coach's Corner presented by Atrium Health, the official healthcare provider of the Davidson Wildcats. My name is Paul Roper, joined by the 50-year head man of the Davidson Wildcat football team. He is Scott Abel, and first things first, back-to-back PFL champions. How does that feel, Coach?
Well, I mean, certainly incredibly proud of our guys, the staff, the community. As we've said since the day we got here, we knew everyone would have to come together to create something special here, to build a culture of winning, and that's the exciting part for me, right? That we weren't just able to win a PFL championship, but we were able to back it up and to prove that, hey, we've built something sustainable here, we're excited about it, and we know that there's still room to grow.
You come back with some key weapons on offense this year. By my count, over 90% of your rushing yards return to this roster. You've got a very experienced backfield. Coach Calder's done a great job with them. Also returned a lot of the slot machine. How good is it to have all those guys coming back?
Well, that's exciting for a head coach. It's exciting for me, the offensive coordinator, as well, that you can lean on such experience for your run game, right? And everyone knows that's kind of where we start, right? We start with establishing a strong option attack from our backfield, and having that kind of experience, I think, really will pay dividends as we go forward.
And, of course, you can't have a good rushing attack without a terrific offensive line. Run DMC, the Davidson Moving Company, returning a lot of key pieces, including Beck Kipperman, who is a preseason All-PFL performer.
Well, you're never a top rushing attack without being really good up front, right? What Coach Munch has built up front, Coach Porter with the tight end room, and our wide receivers out wide, and how they really involve themselves in our offense and how they block, but yet they make big plays on the perimeter. I just can't say enough about those groups. Up front, we graduated two really good players, right, and Khalil Miller, right, and Cole Foley, but we return a lot of starting games, right? We return a lot of guys with a lot of playing experience. We rotated, really at one point 10 guys up front last year, and really of those 10, Cole and Khalil are the only two to graduate and move on. So we're excited about that group up front. I think we move as well as we've ever moved up front. I think we had a great year in the offseason with Coach Simon, our strength staff, and that kind of trickles over to our tight end room, right? We lost Jackson Sherrard, who was a great weapon for us, but I'm extremely excited about our tight end room, the depth there. Lucas Raber, who is a senior, has been playing a ton since he got here, and Jake Staliski, another one who's been playing a ton since he got here. And then, when you look at those guys up front, how they're able to involve themselves in our run game, we feel very fortunate where we are.
They'll also have to protect the quarterback, and that might be a little bit of the elephant in the room, is that there's going to be another new quarterback this year. Last year, Louis Colosimo did a terrific job in leading the Cats to another PFL title. But as you've alluded to in various interviews, this is a young quarterback room this year.
It is a young quarterback room this year. We've said since the beginning that we knew there'd be a new starter, right? And as we've gotten into camp, right, Luke Durkin, we've made some position changes to give some depth to that room, which I'm excited about, which I won't get into too much detail here today. But you'll see two quarterbacks play week one. Luke Durkin will get the start, but you'll see a couple guys taking snaps for the Wildcats, and they have had an unbelievable camp, right? If one thing jumped off from camp at our offensive staff was the play of our young quarterback room. It really didn't matter who was in there at the time. They executed our offense at a high level. Really excited about that. Now, we do understand, right? There's not a quarterback on roster that's ever taken a snap in a collegiate game. So we know that there will be a learning curve, but we're going to rely on those upperclassmen we spoke about earlier, right? The experience in the backfield up front, to really help bring our quarterback room along. And we've been able to do that in our offense over the years, right? I've said it a couple times that, in my last 10 years, we've been able to be a part of 6 championships somehow, somewhere, all 6 with different quarterbacks, right? And so, the offense will take on its own identity with this quarterback room. I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Also excited to see what Jonathan can do this year. I've often said he is the best-kept secret in the PFL, but now that he's on the Buck Buchanan Award watch list, the secret might be out. What makes him so special?
Well, there's quite a few things, right? And I would agree with you. It's not a secret anymore, but if there's a better defensive player in our league, I don't know where he is. And I felt that way last year. I really did. I thought he deserved some really high recognition. He received it. I was a little disappointed he didn't get the PFL Defense Player of the Year. But with that said, excited to return him. And he's just a junior, right? He's explosive off the football. He has a great understanding of his skill sets, how to use them, and he runs, right? The thing that people don't talk about a whole lot with Jonathan, how well he runs. As a high school player, he lined up from everywhere from tight end to receiver to running back on offense to linebacker to defensive end, right, and to where he's playing now. And having that kind of growth curve growing up, playing all those positions, you just have an athlete down there that could do a lot. And how fortunate are we that we have him?
Very fortunate. And of course, he's one of the few starters returning on defense, but like the offensive line, the guys that are coming in this year have also had a lot of experience. Who are some of those other guys we should watch for on defense this year?
Well, you said it right. We have a ton of experience coming back, right? They may not have, the starting title, right? But when you talk about guys like Jaden Pass, Yusef Thomas, they've been playing for two and three seasons, right? And the linebacking core and rotating in. Now, they're full-time starters, right? So that's exciting for us, right? And Brian Jacobs is another one. I would have considered Brian a starter, right? Though he hasn't been on that list these last 2 years, he's been an every down rotator for our safety room. And Jordan Burrell, right, who now enters another season for our Wildcats, who had a great year, and Caden Jenkins hold down our corner room, and it's exciting to have those guys back. I do think this. I think our front is as good as we've had, right? We're excited about, Darren Kindles, right? Aaron Warren coming back, Jared Price, Ryan Moog. All those guys have been playing for years, right? We talked about Jonathan earlier, but who goes along with him? Tyrese White, right? Who's a returning, really fabulous player for us. Julian Rawlings. We are deep up front. I think we're athletic up front. And I'm excited about that. I think the thing that we'll certainly look to continue to develop as we get into the season will be those depth in those key areas that we did lose some numbers to graduation. Our linebacking core and safety, continue to develop those depth because as we talked about Jaden Pask and Yusef Thomas rotating in and play, we're going to need those guys, right? Same thing in the safety room, right? We're going to need, Daniel Carter will step in and try to fill the shoes, right, that were left by our two senior safeties last year along with Brian. But we'll need other guys to step in to gain really meaningful depth we go into the season, much like we talk about in our quarterback room and some of those losses that we had on offense as well.
And staying with the defense, a couple of staff changes made over the offseason. One familiar face in Bryce Perry-Martin, who is now an assistant defensive line coach. And Chris Watts steps into the safeties role and Coach Mack moves into a new role. Talk about what those staff members add to your team.
Well, I'll start with Coach Mack, right? The opportunity to move Coach Mack into an off-the-field role where he would provide some leadership across our communities, right? High school relations is very important to us, right? We don't have a ton of support staff. This enables us to have a leadership support staff overseeing high school coaches, high school players that are coming for visits, coming for campus trips, working with our guys at camps, and then building relationships that we've talked about from day one across the country at that level, right? The heart and soul of every great program is its recruiting and its relationships. And Coach Mack has made a living at that. There's no one better at building relationships. He's a fabulous recruiter, and this really allows him to help us more directly in that role and also assist me along in some of the alumni relations, which he does a fabulous job at. That opened up the opportunity to bring Bryce Perry-Martin back, right? A former Wildcat great, had a great career here, played for me for 2 seasons. He just brings a ton of energy, kind of that youthful excitement that you want around your defense, and we're excited to bring him back. And then Chris Watts, we've added to our safety room. I've known Chris for decades, right? Chris and I, he was one of my assistants years ago at Liberty High School, which was my first job. When I took another job and left there, he was promoted to head coach and has really been there and had an unbelievable career at the high school ranks in Virginia, winning state championships and progressing his career. And we're excited that he thought this was a great time and opportunity to really jump on board with us here. Feel very fortunate to get a coach of that caliber with his experience at this stage. We're real excited.
We're certainly happy to have him as part of the Wildcat staff. And you mentioned how important it is to have a relationship with the high schools, but it's just as important for the players to have great relationships with each other. Lots of team building activities over the past few weeks. How much fun was that?
Oh, it was great. You know, our camp, I think, probably felt as normal as it's really felt, you know, since before the pandemic, right? And that goes for us, that goes back to 2019, right? So the summer of 2019 was a pretty normal camp for us, right? We were able to do some things with our roster and our players that we hadn't been able to do since because of, you know, whether it's contact, how many people are on a bus, you know, in a room, at a facility, whose doors were open. So we've been excited to get back to that, right? And so, you know, we're able to take our guys out to the lake for a day, good food, cancel practice in the morning, you know, had some different activities for some challenges for them out there. They're on Wildcat Cup teams is what we call them. That competition is still ongoing. And so they did some stuff out there regarding that, but also spent some time just really bonding, you know, at the lake. And then, you know, we had a bowling challenge. We took them to the bowling alley one afternoon. That was incredibly fun, right? You know, so we've done some things with them that we haven't been able to do in a couple of years. That's really exciting for us. And I know our players have enjoyed it, our staff have enjoyed it. And what you feel is you feel a bond, right? It's what you wanted coming out of camp. You know, things you know going into camp, I think you have a good idea of your roster, right? Your talent, kind of maybe where the depth needs to be built, but you're not quite sure of the continuity, right? You're not quite sure of the brotherhood because this is the first time this collective group have gotten together, right? Our freshmen reported, and I think it's gone as well as I could have ever imagined or hoped, and that's a compliment to our seniors, to our captains, to our upperclassmen who understand what our culture is and really continue to grow it.
And you can see examples of all those team building activities on the Davidson Wildcats football Twitter at DavidsonFB. Well, Coach, back to work, take on Jacksonville State. It's a opponent you're familiar with, playing them in the FCS playoffs in the spring of 2021, but some added wrinkles. A new coach with Rich Rodriguez, he of West Virginia, Michigan, and Arizona fame. They're also transitioning to the FBS level. Talk about how you prepared for him, what you hope to get out of that game.
Yeah, well, let's start with what we hope to get out of that game, right? I think for us, right, it's just an opportunity to measure ourselves, right? You know, what we talk about daily is how can we be the best version of ourselves, right? You know, how do you tune out the outside noise, the different obstacles you have to overcome, right, to become the best version. So this is going to present a challenge maybe this program has never seen, right? But our kids are excited for that, right? You know, last time we were down there, they weren't in transition, different staff. It was COVID. There was limited crowd. So they'll be sold out, right? We're expecting upwards of 25, 30,000 fans, right? I don't know the last time this program played in front of that kind of crowd, if ever. They are transitioning to an FBS program. So they're in the middle of that, right? And there's some players who played against us last time, but there's a lot of transfers, right? They've worked really hard in the transfer portal to upgrade their roster to prepare for this transition, right? And so, you know, that alone presents a challenge, right? You know, but here's what I understand about our guys, right? You know, I think we're a tough opponent to prepare for, right? Which schematically, we bring our own set of challenges, and we'll work extremely hard to get our program to be the best version of itself. And then what I hope when it's all said and done is that we can look back and say, okay, now this is what we learned. This is how we can grow from this experience. You know, but we're excited. You know, when we were down there last time, you know, we fought hard to a 7-7 game with 3 minutes to go in the half, and kind of the wheels came off, right? You know, what we expect is to us to go down there, bring our very best, right? And that's all we can focus on right now, right? We understand our opponent will be fast, they'll be big, right? Built a little different than your Davidson Wildcats. But with that said, this is where that program's come. This kind of game will really pave the way, be a lot more beneficial than maybe some of the preseason games that this program used to play. And in not getting into naming the programs maybe that we had scheduled in the past, but this will hopefully pave the way for when we get to conference play, that the game will play a little slower for us because we played this game.
Well, it should be a fun way to kick things off on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Coach, thanks as always for your time. We look forward to another terrific season of Wildcat football.
Thanks, Paul.
He's head coach Scott Abel. I'm Paul Roper. A reminder that game will kick off at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have coverage on the Davidson Sports Network presented by Ortho Carolina beginning at 1:30. Thanks for joining us on DavidsonWildcats.com. We'll see you next time on Coach's Corner presented by Atrium Health.